welcome to our special show, Living Long and Healthy with COVID Vaccination. I'm Gargi Rawat. Now, this show seeks to address the concerns that you may have regarding the COVID vaccination and living in the new normal, because the risk of COVID infections continues even though most restrictions have gone, and vaccination is the only way to protect yourself. Today, we have with us experts to address any concerns and questions you may have regarding vaccinations. We're joined by Dr. Ashu Rastogi, faculty at Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research at Chandigarh, Dr. Aniket Gadre, interventional cardiologist at Heart Health Clinic, Pune, and Dr. Somik Chaudhary, interventional cardiologist at the Peerless Hospital in Kolkata. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us and sparing your time to answer all our questions. Dr. Rastogi, I'd like to start with you. And does the immunity that one gets post a COVID infection last longer than the protection one gets from the COVID vaccines? And here I'm asking for myself as somebody who did suffer from COVID in November, so do tell me.
Exactly. So this is a very pertinent issue that many of our patients are also asking to us. And I'll be very fair in saying that the immunity that we get from the vaccine usually lasts for a longer time as compared to a viral infection, because these viruses are known to mutate. And once they mutate, we know that they are not able to be identified by our immune cells or immune system. So if you are having a natural infection, yes, the immunity comes, but it is also going to wane off. And if it is a vaccine, its immunity is also not long-lasting or lifelong, but still I would say that it will last for a particularly long time. So I would suggest that everybody should receive vaccine for COVID.
All right, so I hope I'm eligible for the vaccine soon. Dr. Gadre, how effective is one dose of the COVID vaccine compared to the 2 doses?
So in simple language, first dose of vaccine starts process of building up protection, while second dose of vaccine helps to reinforce this protection. So it was found in clinical trials that first dose of vaccine provides relatively low level of immunity, while immunity was substantially strengthened by second dose of vaccine. So let's say, for example, first dose of vaccine gives 50% of efficacy. The efficacy goes up to 90-95% after second dose. So in a nutshell, the booster dose provides fine-tuning of immune response, and hence it is mandatory to take 2 doses of vaccine.
That's right, at least with the vaccines that we currently have in India. Hopefully we're going to get more vaccines in our kitty soon. Dr. Chaudhary, can you still get COVID virus after the vaccination? Because, you know, you do hear of some anecdotal cases. So if you could explain this to us.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to do that. See, firstly, we must understand that the patients who are going to be immunized against the COVID vaccine, they are going to be actually effective after 15 days of the second dose. So if you count from your first dose, that's probably about 2 months. So in the interim period, you can definitely be infected and you could definitely have the disease. Now, once you are properly vaccinated, your vaccine is predominantly an insurance against you falling severely sick. It really does not cut down the infection much, at least that is not what the trials had studied. You might be less symptomatic, you might have the disease for a shorter period, you might be coughing less, you might have a low viral load. However, you might still be asymptomatically infected and transmitted. So the presence of the vaccine does not deter you from following the regular safe habits, hand washing, sanitization, a safe 6 feet distance, and definitely using hand sanitizers.
All right, so those COVID protocols must be continue to be followed even after the vaccination. Now, if we talk about women's health, Dr. Rastogi, are women more at risk of heart disease during menopause?
Yeah, that's very true. And there have been a lot of studies regarding that, and there are worldwide studies, and every study just suggests that women are more likely to acquire a heart disease, especially after menopause. But recently, few studies are there which suggest that women are not immune to heart disease even before menopause. So that should not deter women to choose a healthy lifestyle even if they are menstruating or even if they are younger. So whether you are young, whether the woman is old, the risk of heart disease is still there if you don't follow a healthy lifestyle which includes a good eating patterns and a good exercise pattern. But yes, the risk is much more after the menopausal age.
All right. Well, speaking of, heart problems, Dr. Gadre, will taking the COVID vaccine affect people's blood pressure?
If I had to answer this question in single word, the answer is no. COVID vaccine does not affect blood pressure. In fact, COVID is essential in patients who have cardiovascular issues like heart disease, like heart disease and hypertension. So we should encourage these patients to come forward and take vaccination.
All right. Now, Dr. Chaudhary, what we did see over the last year in 2020 is many people, avoided going to the hospital because of risk. So many operations were put off. So should people who have pending angioplasties, which were postponed due to COVID, now go ahead and get them?
That's actually a very pertinent question. And before I answer it, let me just give you a small anecdote. This elderly gentleman last year in June had a massive heart attack at home, somehow survived, came to me in a very bad shape about 7 or 8 days later. Heart failure, very sick. And I asked him, sir, why were you at the house for 7 days? And what he answered was very poignant. He said, doctor, if I had died at home of a heart attack, my family would have been around me when I died. If I'd come to hospital and contracted COVID, I would have died alone. This was the fear and paranoia that was actually rampant among people, and many cardiac patients have actually died neglected and untreated. So I would like to categorically say, if you have stable ischemic heart disease which is well controlled with drugs and you're doing fine, maybe you can deter your procedures, your angiographies and angioplastics. But if you have an acute heart attack or an acute coronary syndrome, please do not put it off. You have to get management, you have to get treatment for it. That takes precedence over COVID any day.
All right, Dr. Rastogian, coming back to women, how do you manage PCOS in women?
Yeah, so it depends upon what is the patient's concern, because we sometimes see young girls who are not married and coming mainly with the menstrual irregularity. On the other hand, sometimes we see married women who mainly comes with infertility issues and they are not able to conceive. So once you have diagnosed the PCO or PCOS, what people call it, it can be very different and different. And the medicines that we usually prescribe are so-called oral contraceptive pills, which have a different constituent. So in a woman who is planning for fertility, like a married woman who is not able to conceive, we give these kind of medicines for a period of maybe 12 to 18 months, which helps in regularizing her cycle. It also helps in preparing her for fertility aspect. And sometimes we see girls who come with a lot of hair around their body or maybe around the faces, along with the menstrual irregularities, which is again a feature of PCOS. So in these situations, again, we have to choose oral contraceptive pills, which has estrogen and progesterone, which helps in just regularizing the hormones which are irregular in a PCO girl or a woman. And in addition to it, sometimes if it is so hairy and patient is so much concerned about the hair, we also ask to add other medicines which is called spironolactone. And on top of that, sometimes cosmetic measures are also required to get rid of all this unnecessary hair. But mind it, this is treatable. And important is that sometimes PCO can have very long-term complications, like it might turn on that these women or girls are usually obese, so they might land into diabetes after some time. So if we find a girl or a woman with PCO, we need to check their blood glucose also and just follow these girls and advise regarding their lifestyle modifications. And the most important is reduce their weight. And at least a 4 to 5% reduction in their present weight is most advisable thing for getting rid of PCO.
All right, and this is an issue that's not talked about enough, so there needs to be more awareness about this. But coming back to the issue of vaccination and heart patients, Dr. Gadre, as a heart patient, is there anything that they need to look out for, before they go in for the vaccination and then after they go in for the vaccination? Are there any, telltale signs that they need to watch out for which they must contact their doctor?
I get n number of phone calls from patients, especially who have undergone angioplasty with stent procedure, whether it is safe to take vaccination. So major concern people have is bleeding due to dual antiplatelets or blood thinning medications like aspirin and clopidogrel. So it was found that a few of the patients may experience little bruising around injection site, but that should not be a major cause of concern. Apart from that, there are no major side effects in patients who have suffered from heart attack or who have undergone angioplasty or bypass operation. So I don't think there is any specific thing one has to look out for. And vaccines are safe, as we know, and side effects are manageable, they are temporary. So, and if you look at the benefit versus risk, benefits outweigh the risks of COVID vaccine. So I think we should encourage heart patients to come forward and take vaccination.
All right, thank you so much for answering that question. And with that, time for us to slip into a short break. We'll be back and answer all your queries regarding vaccination. Stay with us. Welcome back to our special show, Living Long and Healthy with COVID Vaccination, where our panel of doctors are answering any doubts, any queries you may have regarding the vaccine. Dr. Rastogi, if you could tell us about women's health and how are thyroid conditions managed in women?
Yes, so thyroid, if a woman is having thyroid disorder, it can have myriad presentations. That's a varied presentation, and the most common thing that women comes is that, doctor, I am gaining weight. I'm having some menstrual irregularities, my periods are not going good, or just I am not able to conceive. This is again a problem with thyroid. And sometimes they say, I just tire so easily, I am not able to do household work. So these are just common things once a woman comes, and a thyroid is the first thing that clicks our mind, and we should check the thyroid with a simple thyroid function test that is now fortunately readily available in our country, and it could be done even in the peripheral health centers. And once you are able to diagnose this thyroid condition, the treatment is much more simpler. The therapy is very readily available, and it's so cheap, it hardly costs ₹1 a day. But what is important is first to identify the signs and symptoms of the thyroid disease or hypothyroidism in a woman. And the treatment is so gratifying that if you treat just within 3 to 6 months, they feel so much change in their body, so much change in their lifestyle. And we have seen women who have regularization of their menstrual cycles, even women who were infertile earlier, they conceive, and finally they are able to lead a very active life. So diagnose and treat thyroid.
All right. Now, Dr. Chaudhary, now it was believed earlier that people on ACE inhibitors were at high risk of COVID. So should people on these medications go in for the vaccinations, and is it safe?
See, initially most of us did not have much data on the virus. So what was seen was merely observational data. So they found that patients with morbidities like hypertension, they had more severe disease and were not doing well. And they also found that this virus attaches through the ACE receptor onto the lung. So what happened is people extrapolated and thought that the ACE inhibitors were probably worsening the disease. However, this theory has pretty much been debunked. There is no evidence or data which actually supports the fact that patients who are on ACE inhibitors or ARBs, that's your sartans and your prints, were actually doing worse or had worse disease. In fact, there was a study of about 19,000 patients which found that the elderly, more than 70 up, were actually ACE inhibitors were beneficial for them in preventing severe disease. So ACE inhibitors or ARBs, your standard antihypertensive drugs, do not make you more susceptible to coronavirus infection. And you can definitely continue them through your vaccination. And in fact, you should, because a good stable BP control is very useful in preventing further complications of the disease. So do not stop your ACE inhibitors for vaccination.
All right, that should be helpful for the people. And so far, Dr. Gadre, now this, the vaccination drive is open for those over 60 years of age and those over 45 years with the serious illnesses. Though from April, it has opened up for 45-year-old plus. But many of them have had procedures done. So if they have had a stent fitted, should they go in for vaccinations? Is there any special care they need to take?
So as I mentioned in previous question, this is a commonly asked question whether one can go for vaccine if stent is fitted. So answer is definitely yes. As I mentioned earlier, they may experience little bruising around injection site, but that should not be a major cause of concern. Another question asked by patients is whether they need to stop antiplatelets like aspirin group of drugs. So answer to this question is no. They need not stop antiplatelets just for sake of vaccination. No, it is safe to take vaccination even when patients are on antiplatelets or blood thinners.
All right, and Dr. Chaudhary, if we can ask about people with pacemakers, is there any care that they need to take, and is it safe for them to go ahead and get the vaccine?
Yes, we do think so. As the data that we have right now, I think definitely patients who have had pacemakers, and a lot of my patients do call me up. In fact, sometimes what happens is when my patients call me up, the first thing I say is, yes, you can take a pacemaker. You can take the COVID vaccine. And they start smiling because they know that is the question they're going to ask. So yes, the patients with pacemakers, you can definitely go ahead and take the vaccine. There is no frank contraindication for you purely because you have a pacemaker. The other features like anticoagulants and all that becomes obvious and relevant depending on the situation. But having a pacemaker should not stop you from getting the COVID vaccination done.
Dr. Gadre, and are the side effects any different for people who have uncontrolled hypertension? They fall under those comorbidities which people over 45 can go ahead and get the vaccine, and the people with heart disease and those who've undergone bypass surgeries, any special concerns for them?
No, there are no specific concerns for people who have uncontrolled hypertension, but yes, they should visit their doctor or physician to get their blood pressure under control. And even patients who have undergone bypass operation, there are no specific contraindications to have COVID vaccine.
All right, and Dr. Rastogi, finally, coming back to the point of antibodies, etc., and recently the doses between the duration between doses of the coronavirus vaccine, Covishield, the AstraZeneca one, they have been increased. So if you could explain to us why it's been increased, that's a question we get a lot.
So as earlier also mentioned that we definitely require 2 doses. So there is no question about that. Now the question remains, what should be the appropriate duration between the 2 doses? So first dose is just to incite an immune response. And the second dose is kind of a maintenance dose which helps in boosting or just making your memory cells recognize the infection whenever it comes again so that they can react to it. So initially the studies, the experience with the doses of this Covishield or AstraZeneca vaccine was very small in a small number of patients. So what they did, they just were trying that what should be the actual dosing between 2 vaccines. Initially they tried 2 weeks, then 4 weeks, then 6 weeks, then 8 weeks, then 12 weeks. And even more than that, even 16 and 20 weeks. So what they found that the antibody response to the vaccine was best once the vaccine was administered beyond 6 weeks, but less than 12 weeks. So therefore now the government is also saying, and even the AstraZeneca manufacturers are also mentioning, that if you can delay your second dose of vaccine to beyond 6 weeks, maybe 6 to 8 weeks or sometimes even 10 weeks is an ideal duration of receiving the second dose. It just helps you in maintaining that immune response, because now again the experience is hardly with around 6 months with these vaccines. We don't know what happens after 1 year. Will this antibody response last for this long duration of time? But at least now we know that if you give vaccine at 10 weeks, probably it will have a better immune response. If the patient is vaccinated at 10-week duration, probably he will be able to ward off the severity of SARS-CoV infection or COVID that we fondly call this virus.
All right. Well, thank you so much for answering that, and thank you, doctors, for taking out your time and answering all these concerns. And if you're listening out there, anyone who's eligible for the vaccine, do go ahead and get it. It's the only way we're going to defeat this pandemic. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Do you know that 3 children are raped and 5 are sexually abused every hour? But their fight for justice goes on forever. This is a national emergency.